Okay, hi everybody. So today we're going to talk about something extremely controversial, so controversial that one of our members decided that they would not join. Hi, Jinheng. Okay, so we're talking about the Fukushima wastewater disposal. You might have heard in the news that they are now planning to dump large amounts of radioactive water, and there's been a massive uproar over this. So we're going to analyze a bit about whether this is safe or not, and just the science behind it. Nothing about politics at all, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
When you want to generate nuclear energy or nuclear waste, you have to smash a particle into an atom, or you smash two atoms, and this normally happens in the nuclear power plant. Because of the smashing, it generates a lot of heat. And that heat is what is being used in creating thermal energy that you use in turning the turbines. Mm. And could you guys believe that in the world, you have about this much nuclear power plants, according to IEA, in about 30 countries?
No, I can't believe it.
I can't believe it.
Impossible.
No way.
One of the reasons why they're doing this is because it's cheap to maintain. Because the long run maintenance of it is cheap, but you also have to think in terms of the waste disposal in the long run.
If it's cheap, we should get one.
Well, yeah. Are there any safe uses of this? There are some safe uses. The major uses
Potatoes?
Sterilization of potatoes.
No
yes.
way. No
so
way.
in fact,
I buy organic potatoes.
you have to transport potatoes or wheat, whatever, around the world. Yeah. And especially, for instance, think of vegetables. By the time you are taking vegetable or banana from, let's say, Costa Rica to this place, it must have ripened in the ship in between. Mm. So what you do is you use some of these, mostly they're using cesium-137 to irradiate these things so that they delay the senescence or the ripening of those fruits, so that by the time they get here, they still may be greenish and things like that. We have witnessed two nuclear accidents: the Chernobyl accident and the Fukushima accident. In fact, I think there are more than one. I think there was one in the United States.
Was it 3 miles, 8 miles? 8 miles? No, that's M&M. That's some number of miles.
There was another accident somewhere in the US. But outside the accidents, what about the waste? The waste product. So shown here is what it looked like in just before the accident. So, but on this very date, March 11, 2011, what caused the nuclear accident was an earthquake of magnitude 9.0, and according to...
I was there. Were you there?
I wasn't.
You weren't there?
I came in 2012.
2012, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I was there.
In fact, I was going to ask you, did you really feel it in Tokyo?
Totally, yeah. My whole house was cabinets, things like that. My house was a mess. I put a picture on Facebook of my house with everything on the floor.
You had synthesizer or something there.
Yeah. And then everybody, of course, made really smart ass comments that, "Oh, Tim, you should clean your room."
Okay. So, and that triggered a tsunami. The water height was about 40 meters high.
I'm going to talk a little bit about how much contaminated water was actually released. Basically, there were several different phases when contaminated water was released. So shortly after the disaster, there was a huge amount of water was put into the ocean, and essentially what they needed was tanks to store highly radioactive water because they needed to cool the reactor, right? And then they needed to store that water. So the water that was actually already in the tanks, they had to do something with it because they needed to put even more radioactive water in it. So they basically dumped radioactive water containing 20,000 terabecquerels and 6,000 terabecquerels of cesium-137. To understand what a becquerel is, becquerel basically means 1 nucleus decay per second. So you would have heard also things like sieverts and things like that. That's actually more got to do with how much of a radiation dose you get on a human body. And so just to give you an idea of what kind of relatively normal levels of becquerels are. So here is just some graph that I found about various building materials and how much radiation they naturally contain. So this is things like, granite and other rocks, basically. And so typically things are sort of around about the 100 becquerels per kilogram. So if you got like a kilogram of rock, so, emitting about 100 sort of becquerels, right? And in terms of like how much you can ingest, the kind of guideline that at least I found from this reference is around about the 100 becquerel per liter. So if we are talking about how much radiation you can have within water, then about 100 becquerels is the guideline. So sort of keep that number in mind. So let's do a quick back of the envelope calculation of like how much water you would need to dilute this amount of radioactive materials. Let's look at cesium for reasons I'll go into in a minute. So 6,000 terabecquerels is that. And then let's say the safe amount is 100 becquerels per liter. So basically we need to dilute that with 6 times 10 to the 13 liters. Or if we convert that to meters cubed, so it's 6 times 10 to the 10 meters cubed, which sounds huge, but just to give you a feeling for how much water that is, that's around about a cube of water that's about 4 kilometers. Okay. So, it's a huge amount of water, but in a way, it's not the amount of water on Earth or something like that, right? Yeah. So obviously some region of the coast will be affected. So I mentioned about iodine. So actually the half-life of iodine is only 8 days. So it's not quite as dangerous in a way as cesium, where the half-life is about 30 years. That was immediately after the disaster. But after that, there was this incident that the water tanks were now leaking. So again, it was cesium-137. And so they estimate that about 60 terabecquerels was leaked into the groundwater. So again, let's do our back of the envelope calculation. So that's actually a smaller amount than the initial amount, right? So if we were to try and dilute that down to something 100 becquerels per liter, then we'd be talking, again, a cube of like one kilometer cube.
Now that they are doing controlled cooling and removing the contaminants. So here, what they are doing now is, pumping in water from the ground and removing water from the up. And along the lines, they are removing most of the nuclides. But like you said, cesium easily dissolves in water. And that's why cesium and I think even strontium were able to escape in the initial, during the leakage, but mostly I think it was cesium. Also, they have 3 nuclides, cesium, strontium, and tritium. Yeah. So tritium dissolves also pretty good in water, and there is no way to even extract it. But you can extract cesium and other compounds, other nuclides. So what happens here now is they pump, store some of the water, about 800 metric tons of water is what they extract from here. So they store 400 of those in those tanks and recycle 400 of those they recovered. And so they keep on doing it. And right now, what they want to now do is to discharge these water they have stored, which will occupy 500 Olympic-sized stadium, into the ocean over 30 years.
So the strontium and other things, where are they now exactly?
They are asking prefectures or towns or local governments, where they can do geographical study for the storage of nuclear waste. So I think that what they're doing now is preparing them. I think Marek is going to say something more about that, but they're preparing them.
Kind of sort of concentrate it up and then you have to store it.
Store it somewhere. So I think that's what they're doing. So, but the only one they can't really do anything with is the tritium, which is contained in these waters. And so they plan to dump them into the ocean. So here again is what tritium looks like. Actually, I haven't seen this kind of thing before, but
Yeah, I've got one. Well, not here. No, I don't have it. Elsewhere. I bought one in Europe, yes.
Is it safe?
Yeah, because I think it just emits, what is it? Beta radiation,
Beta
is it?
radiation.
And then it's completely blocked by the container.
Yeah, actually, even the beta radiation is actually blocked by by our skin. The beta radiation from the tritium.
This is a gas, of course, because it's basically hydrogen. So actually, I think if you break it, basically, hydrogen actually goes to space.
Yeah, it goes up. It goes up.
So you could just break it, it floats up to space.
But do you still have it?
Do I have this? No. No. The current plan is to release this water, just only containing tritium, essentially. And according to the policy that I think you read, so it's diluted down to 1,500 becquerels per liter. So before I was talking about 100 becquerels was a sort of a normal amount for various things, right? But according to this article, this is about 1/40th of the concentrated permitted under various standards. Okay, Japanese standards, 1/7 of the WHO. So it doesn't quite match up in terms of the numbers, because I was looking at some other references which was saying more like 100. This thing is suggesting that it's more like 10,000, I guess, 7 times 1,500. So this is the radiation. The left is supposed to be the contaminated water.
So it's an imported amount of radiation you have in banana, and this imported amount of radiation you have in the chips. So
maybe we should first dump bananas into the ocean and see what happens, and then dump the water.
Yeah, the director of the International Atomic Energy Agency equally has this to say, but he stressed that controlled water discharges into the sea are routinely used by operational nuclear power plants in the world and in the region. You can see from this map, these are the countries that are dumping tritium into the ocean, and you can clearly see it from this table.
So that France figure is huge. Maybe it takes.
I think maybe accepts nuclear.
Yeah, from the whole country, because France does a lot of nuclear power.
Nuclear power, and try to reprocess it. So here is the decay equation for tritium. So it decays by emitting. It decays by emitting
PowerPoint.
It decays by emitting beta radiation and neutrino, and in the process it gives you helium-3. Japan is saying that the water they are going to be dumping into the ocean, which has been stored from April of this year, is about 860 terabecquerels. So they're going to be dumping this much into the ocean. And you now ask yourself, what, in terms of grams, it turns out that it is about this much.
What, 2.4 grams?
Yes.
It's the whole thing?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay, doesn't seem like much, does it?
That's the thing.
Surprising.
Sure. I'm sure. Even though it is about this gram, well, it's still harmful.
Right. Like if it was all concentrated into
it's still harmful.
Yeah, so we discussed dumping stuff into the water, but if we don't want to dump them, another option is to just bury it deep underground and wait, hope for the better times when someone will figure out what to do with that. Basically let future generations worry about it. So that's actually what's usually done. What they do is they create those deep geological repositories, which are basically very stable locations, which are unlikely to have anything happen to them for a very, very long time.
I read in the news that one mayor got his house petrol bombed because he volunteered his town for storage, for nuclear storage.
So people often ask, okay, how long? How long do I need to wait? Depends on what isotopes you have. So they have different half-lives and the amounts of those isotopes. So, and that depends on the type of reactor, the type of fuel.
So, in summary, what do you think?
Well, if I should say my mind, I would say people should stop having nuclear power plants.
It was not supposed to be political.
Wait a minute.
No, that's my own personal.
You think it's too dangerous for its own good?
Yes, I think it's too
Yeah.
dangerous because storing these nuclear waste for a very long time. Suppose something happens and people don't really know where things were buried, right? And you wander into them thinking they are caves.
Yeah. Imagine the post-apocalyptic reality. Oh, I'm wondering what's there. Let's see. Let's check.
So these are the kind of things, for me personally, that's why I think, and we have had 2 nuclear accidents, and it's not really fun for people living in those areas. That's what I think. But when I look on the other side, if we don't have these nuclear power plants, can we really generate enough energy to power those things and still maintain all the heavy industries we have?
Yeah, but what you think is satisfying the current demands. But think about what could we do if we have even more energy. I mean, even if you have a lot of power, excess power, you could even use it to reverse absorb the carbon. Yeah, exactly.
You could build carbon capture.
Yeah,
systems, right.
But that's the problem, energy. Yeah.
Nuclear fusion is the most efficient, fundamentally, right?
Yeah.
Apart from matter, antimatter collisions, we don't really have.
Let's do this one. That sounds cool.
Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.